morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Stacey Varghese, and I am Director of Leadership Annual Giving and Engagement at St. John's University. Today, we have Christine Salboudis, who will speak on refining your elevator pitch. Some housekeeping rules before we begin. If you have a question, please submit it on the bottom right in the Q&A section to the panelists and hosts, and they will be answered at the end of the presentation. Now, I'm excited to introduce our speaker. Chris Salboudis, founder of Philo4Thought, has become interested in peer mentoring very early on in life. As a first-generation American who had to overcome a number of struggles along her educational and professional development, she has chosen to dedicate her life's work to helping the next generation advance in work and in life. Having experienced a broad array of positive and negative mentoring styles at a variety of academic and professional levels since early childhood, Chris has dedicated herself to providing for those who are transitioning into the mainstream academic or professional network of their desired occupation. At present, Chris is a CPD certified life coach in US and the UK, with specialties in work-life balance, career, relationship building strategies, and mindfulness. She holds the rank of adjunct assistant professor at 2 universities in New York, including St. John's University, where she teaches a variety of courses in philosophy, literature, composition, and environmental. She is also an active member of her church community and several philanthropic organizations. While these professional and philanthropic endeavors have always fulfilled her career goals, the thing she values most is being the proud mother of 2 amazing young professionals who always keep her on her toes. Welcome, Chris. I will hand the webinar controls over to you now.
Thanks so much, Stacey, for that great introduction. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. So today is the presentation on elevator pitches and creating an effective pitch. All right. So a little bit about me. Stacey already kindly introduced me, founding CEO of Philo4Thought, an adjunct assistant professor at St. John's, former assistant dean at St. John's. So that was an experience, and administrative manager and student coordinator at Columbia University. So we're going to go right into it. And please make sure that if you have questions, as Stacey said, please put them into the chat and we'll address them at the end of the activity. So why is your pitch important? A portion of every profession is sales oriented. And I was mentioning a little bit earlier in another conversation, even basic parenting skills require you to be good at giving a pitch, everything. So in work and in life, knowing how to pitch is very important. You need a focused and interesting pitch to appeal to your target audience, whether it's a client or investor, an employer, a student, a patient, etc. You can do this by following 5 simple rules outlined in this webinar. But first, an overview on the origin of an elevator pitch. So an elevator pitch is a brief speech outlining a product, concept, or service. Basically, a potential investor or employer or client is buttonholed in an elevator or waiting area, allowing a person to pitch a very brief impromptu speech to secure a target audience as their client or investor. That's where the term comes from. Typically, the pitcher has about 10 to 20 seconds under pressure to convince his or her audience. Investopia does allow for a 60-minute pitch. However, that's not really realistic because if you've ever tried to pitch to someone, you don't really have a full minute to give that information to them. You have to do it very quick and on the spot. The concept of presenting focused, audience-specific, persuasive dialogue stems from the teachings of Aristotle, specifically the concepts of ethos, logos, and pathos, which are very popular buzzwords today. And if any of my students are online today, you've heard me talk about this ad nauseum. All right. For those who are new to the concept, welcome. We'll talk about this a bit more. The top tips to create an effective pitch in your area of study or line of work start with understanding the process. So an effective pitch is grounded in this concept, ethos, logos, and pathos, which prompts you to be aware of 3 things. First, of your own strengths and weaknesses, as well as your goals and interests. Then next, your audience's strengths and weakness, their gap, what their gap is, okay, and what they're good at. So you're not really like covering exactly the same ground. You're pitching something new to them that they need, okay? Their goals and interests are supposed to be primary in your pitch, the preparation of your pitch. The third aspect is strategy. So you need to connect with and persuade your audience to do or accept the thing that you're trying to sell them on. A successful pitch requires all three of these things. Okay. Next, you have to know the bottom line. No matter what line of work you're in, on some level, all professions basically boil down to the successful sale of a concept, process, product, or service. To perform a successful pitch, you must dress the part, use the right body language, have fluid use of industry-specific vocabulary, exude confidence, and be really authentic. Okay, no one has time for fake people and fake presentations. You have to be very authentic. Okay, so the 5 rules that I mentioned earlier, we're going to go into now. Rule 1, be smart. Prepare smart pitches, map out your points and goals, which means SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound concepts. Okay, so when you're pitching something, you have to make sure that everything you're presenting is very focused for that person. You're not giving a general pitch to someone who has only time to hear a specific thing. You're pitching directly to them. It has to be measurable. You have to have a start and end time. It has to be attainable. It can't be like you promising the moon or something that's outside of the scope of what you can literally offer them within a fixed measure of time. It has to be relevant to that person, and it has to be specific to this time. It can't be something that's very passé and you're pitching now because it's outdated, right? They don't want something old. They want something new, all right? And specific to them. Okay, next, keep things short and sweet. As I said before, you have sometimes 10 seconds, all right? You don't want to be tripping over yourself. You don't want to be going on and on about things that aren't relevant to the person. You want to make sure that you've intrigued your audience, and you might get maybe 20 extra seconds, okay? It's that moment where they look straight at you and they say, okay, go on, I'm listening. And from there, you have 20 extra seconds, okay? Rule 3, the pitch is not about you, okay? Don't ramble on about yourself. Don't ramble on about your journey and all the things that have brought you to this moment where you're pitching to this person. You want to know and point out your bottom line. What's the ROI for this person in front of you? Be clear, authentic, and approachable. I'm going to keep saying authentic again because some people, that's the challenge for them because they get nervous and, you know, have some blocks when they're trying to prepare a pitch for someone. Rule 4 is be strong. Be good with your words, your tone, your body language. Avoid jargon and connect with your audience directly, okay? Don't show off your SAT vocabulary. No one cares about that stuff. You have to connect with the person, research the person if you have to a little bit so that you know what their background is and you're using terms that connect to them, okay? Avoid awkward start and pauses and endings, okay? Don't be one of those people who goes on and on at the networking event or on and on in the lobby of the elevator to people who aren't interested in what you're saying. Stand tall and show that you believe in your product. Okay, so that's the body language factor. You have to make sure that you look confident. If you're slouchy and, you know, presenting things and have your worried face on, no one wants to listen to that. No one wants to look at that. You don't look like you know what you're doing. So you have to look like you know what you're doing. Okay, have your packet ready, have your business card ready to share with your client, to share with your employer or investor. Have it ready. What I do when I'm trying to prepare a pitch to someone, I have my e-card is on my cell phone. I have a PDF of the files that I will need to share with them already saved to my email or Google Drive so that I can very easily share it with them on the spot. I don't walk around with a big briefcase and carrying 20 files with me because it looks disorganized. It looks like I don't have my act together, right? Especially now in the age of technology, you have to make sure that you look smooth, sleek, and like you know what you're doing. Rule 5, and I told you guys already I was going to say authentic several times. Be authentic and attentive. Be candid and sincere. Read the audience and stay on your toes. leave the room knowing that you have given your audience something real to think about. Okay, and then hidden rule number 6 is always have your materials ready, which I mentioned earlier. Okay, now you have to know when to pitch, all right, and sometimes when to walk away. You have to be able to read your audience and understand when you should pitch to them and when it's someone who is not feeling the situation with you at this time. Okay, pitching is based on a combination of factors, some luck, some logic, and some gut feeling. It takes place on a subconscious level every time you meet someone new and share a bit about yourself or about your product. You either make a connection or you don't, and that leads to building more robust dialogues, trust, and collaboration. In films, we tend to see some very humorous pitches at unconventional locations or in scenarios that would not normally be experienced in the real world. So for example, one of my favorite pitches is Sandra Bullock in 2 Weeks Notice. She just walks up to Hugh Grant and she pitches something to him and he hires her for something else. And it's just crazy. Things like that don't really happen in the real world, okay? But most people have seen that movie and so they have this concept of what a pitch would look like. It's important to keep the comfort level and receptivity of the intended audience in mind at all times. And with practice and experience, you gradually gain a sense of what is an appropriate thing to pitch and who the appropriate audience would be for the product that you're trying to sell. Okay, common scenarios and examples. So I've broken down a few common scenarios. The first one is the first date scenario. Okay, so you have to know how to self-edit. You don't want to be that person who's talking on and on about themselves when the other person is silently dying in front of you, so bored that they just keep looking at their watch, they want the date to end, they don't ever want to see you again. All right, you don't want to be that person. The next thing is the never-ending story example. Okay, so you don't want to be part of that group. You don't want to be the person who is speaking on and on about something, telling a story that has no focus and seems as though it's never going to end, because you're going to lose the interest of the audience. At best, they're going to mock you when you're not in front of them, which you just don't want. That's not your goal. So if you see that you're losing the attention of the person in front of you, redirect what you're saying and what you're doing. If you stand around and overload a person with information rather than engaging them, you'll lose their interest and they'll just want the interaction to end. Okay? Stick to short explanations, keep your audience engaged by asking them questions, and show that you're interested, that your primary interest is in them. Okay? People are more attentive and accepting of what you're saying when you put them first. Okay. The next common scenario is the comrade example. And this is the one that most of you have experienced or are engaged in because you're part of this alumni group and also other similar organizations. So the comrade example is when people who've worked together for a long time blend together like family. Alumni groups and organizations to which you belong can provide a level of shared insider references that put us all at ease during networking sessions. For instance, when I meet someone from St. John's, the first thing I think of is Vincentian mission, and I feel a sense of connectivity and trust at that level. Perhaps we attended the same school at the same time, perhaps we had the same mentors and advisors, or took the same classes, or attended the same sporting events, and this kind of helps us get a sense of a relationship beyond just the professional brass taxes, right? And it makes us a little more comfortable working with one another. Every little detail can help build rapport, connectivity, and trust. However, please don't overplay this card and lose the interest of your audience as a result. Like some people just presume, oh, you're from St. John's, me too. And then they presume that you owe something to them because you're both from the same school. So don't act with a sense of entitlement. Just take it one step at a time, baby steps, connect with the person through, you know, good intentions and honesty, okay? Now, knowing how to pitch through the building of connectivity and trust. So building connectivity and trust, as we've said before, goes a long way in helping to create a more comfortable atmosphere when you're creating your pitch for a specific audience. For formal interviews and presentations, it's essential to be aware of what the other person or group wants or needs through active listening and prior research of that group or organization. Use charisma to build relationships. Charisma is like very tricky for some people, but then other people kind of just always had it. And it's important to try and build that sense of positive appeal. So Philo4Thought has a short video, and I'll share the video link with you guys in the chat after the talk so that you have this link that's here. Okay. Next, do not self-sabotage with negativity about yourself or others. The only thing that's worse than showing a lack of confidence is using the off-putting comments about other people to play yourself up. No one has time for that. Okay, a true professional is a confident professional, and you can stand on your own feet and say positive things, even about your competitors. You can say, these people do this very well. However, we do it a little bit more efficiently. That's it. Okay, it's very positive. It doesn't talk, what did my students say? It doesn't talk smack about these other people, right? You're being positive. You're acknowledging that there are other people, but you're also acknowledging that you do it a little better, a little differently. Your team is perhaps sharper, etc. Philo4Thought also has a short video on this and other common career pitfalls, just for those who are trying to build up a positive professional identity, which is one of the things that our organization focuses on. Okay, don't be needy. Don't beg or grovel for attention. Do not chase people who are not interested in your product or in your service. Just don't, okay? Because it just makes you look very bad. It also could create scenarios that are very negative for you or for the other person. We want to avoid anything that's negative, okay? Stay humble. Do not brag about yourself and go on and on. Don't puff yourself up like a peacock. No one has time for that, okay? Please leave your ego at home and proceed with the brass taxes of what product you're selling, okay? Stick to the facts. Give one or two simple examples of your work and let the amazing quality of your work speak for itself. People will see it if you pitch it correctly, all right? Next. Always have an answer for the ROI question, okay? Why should this person listen to you? Why should this person pick you to work with? Why should they invest their time or resources or team, anything? Why should they pick you? What's so special? Okay. The most common problem with pitches is that a pitcher overshares. Okay. You give too much information about yourself, what training you've had, etc., rather than focusing on the great thing that you have to benefit the person in front of you or the group in front of you. Okay. It's very important, as I said before, to put the audience first, put their needs and their wants first. Take a back seat to yourself for a little bit to present the pitch, okay? Don't waste your time with extra chit chat. Know your point, map it out, present it, okay? Remember ethos, logos, pathos. All right, now we're going to cover a few industry-specific considerations, okay? For all the industries that we covered in the next few slides, keep the goals of your industry and your company in mind at all times when creating your pitch. And while the overall goals and structure of the pitch are the same as the 5 rules that I mentioned earlier, details may differ slightly based on intended audiences and other factors, okay? And just as a note, if you haven't seen your industry represented in the slides that are about to come up, just put your question in the chat and we'll address it after, okay? While all pitches contain the same elements, the pitcher's approach will differ slightly based on the concept, product, etc. being pitched and the nature of the audience. Let's review a few industry-specific pitches. Occupations such as physical therapy and veterans affairs can be the easiest and hardest to pitch at the same time. Why? Because the goal is straightforward. However, the clients are emotionally vulnerable. So you're working with people who are injured or tired or demotivated or traumatized a lot of times by the cause of their injury. So the range of the people you're working with is going to be different in that respect. Also, the people being treated are also going to be from a broad range age-wise. So there's not a fixed target audience the way you would have in business and other industries. Okay, so physical therapy, it's the most straightforward because you know the product that you're trying to sell. Treat, go, heal, let's do it, right? And the people I know in these industries are very, bubbly and energetic and very hardworking and dedicated. However, they have the hardest time sometimes convincing someone to get up off the wheelchair, hold on to the stirrups, etc., and start walking. You can do it, but it's hard. So they're dealing with very emotionally vulnerable people. And the same with veteran affairs. Athletics and ROTC pose similar challenges, though the age range of the audience is more specific because they tend to be much younger, right? And we won't comment on whether or not it's easier or harder to deal with younger people. In my opinion, it's easy or hard depending on the individual person in front of you, because some of them are already self-motivated and some have challenges that you have to work on a little more, okay? Similarly, pediatrics and speech therapy and other occupations related to those bear the challenge of working with young clients and also trying to convince the parents to spend on certain items. So you have a very split audience that you're trying to pitch to. You're trying to convince a young person to do, sometimes like 3 or 4 years old, to do something a certain way, to keep the FM unit in the ear, to keep their cochlear implant balanced and sleep a certain way. But then you also have the parents who you have to convince, look, you need to buy this product, otherwise your child is going to be struggling. So it's a mixed bag for that profession. Okay, next industry we're going to cover is education. Educators, including counselors and providers, administrators, etc., are constantly in the business of selling knowledge. Back in ancient Greece, sophists were actually accused of selling wisdom for profit rather than sharing it openly as it was intended to be. Educational pitches are directed to a combination of students, peers, and supervisors, as many of you know. Instructors have to stay on their toes and think fast to troubleshoot with impromptu responses to a variety of questions. Again, the target audiences are mixed, sometimes very motivated students, sometimes skeptical students, sometimes demotivated students, or students who need extra access or accommodations. So in current times, other factors also contribute to the amount of knowledge students, peers, and supervisors have, and we have to sort of work to scale with whatever we have available and whoever comes to us. Whether you're an administrator or an instructor, there are a few key issues we all share in common: looking for ways to gamify things, to prompt more streamlined productivity from students, etc. There's a small difference between K-12 educators and college and university educators. K-12 educators have the same burden to split pitches between children and parents and other administrators, while instructors and administrators from individuals who are 18 and older don't have that challenge. Instead, the college and university educators have accommodation challenges, and they have to address a broader spectrum of adult learners, which you don't have in the K-12 setting. All right. Next, business and innovation. The standard elevator pitch is most commonly used by entrepreneurs, contractors, media and marketing teams, and STEM innovation specialists. The pitches in those industries are very straightforward, and you have one new product or startup to focus on. You're pitching for funding, or you're pitching for acceptance of the product to a certain company. Think big money and community outreach as your goals when you're setting up your 10 to 20 second promo to attract sponsors, investors, clients, staff, etc. And you have to keep in mind that you snooze, you lose mentality, which is something you don't really have in these other professions that we've covered so far. It's the business industry is much more fast paced and moves very quickly, so you have to stay sharp. So this you snooze, you lose mentality is very important amongst internal teams who might be competing for a chance to pitch to a potential client. So even before the client is in front of you, you'll be part of a team that's pitching against other teams within your company for the chance to go and pitch to a potential client. It's very fast paced. A lot of my students have already experienced this through their classes and internships. So it's very exciting, but at the same time, it's mentally a lot of wear and tear on your system. Then, of course, fundraising and development specialists have a lot of emphasis on how they pitch because they're trying to raise funds for a specific group or organization. Those responsible for capital development have their work cut out for them. They have to reach out to investors. The real estate investors for development projects have to reach out to public funding sources to get donations, grants, sponsorships, and so on. This requires the formulation of a clear mission, strategic plan, and pitch deck, as well as the completion of lengthy application packets and sometimes even cold calls, which can be very annoying. The audience is typically very niche in these industries, so the pitch has fewer variables to consider. However, the speed at which the pitch has to keep morphing is higher. So that's a consideration to keep in mind. Next, you have finance and investment. So pitches are usually directed towards the finance and investment teams because they are typically the people wearing the investor's cap. They're the ones that we're coming to for money. The scenarios presented by professional development coaches and other specialists really are geared towards what you would say to people in this group, okay? However, having said that, there are several public relation firms and financial security representatives who do learn to specialize in how to pitch to potential clients and investors, which often requires training in comparative markets, financial systems protocols, and other related aspects of finance and investment industries. Next, we have law and criminal justice. An interesting twist to the use of a pitch is found in professions dealing with law, forensics, and related civil service jobs. So attorneys, for example, are known for their opening and closing remarks to a varied jury. This is basically an elevator pitch. They only have a limited amount of time. Granted, it's more than 20 seconds, right? But they have a limited amount of time where they can present their information, okay? They have to say it in a way that reaches the jury, okay? Now, other people in law and criminal justice have to learn how to deconstruct a pitch, which is a little bit harder. Because what does that mean? Someone has given you a story and now you have to pull it apart and see where the seeds of truth are. It's really fun. As a philosophy professor, I have to do this all the time. It's really fun. It's also very frustrating because once you deconstruct the thing, you now have to prove that what you've discovered is true to people in your peer group. Okay. Executives and general administrators, ranging from top-tier officers to middle management, receive countless pitches on a daily basis and need to master the art of reading pitches while they're being presented. Like in action, while it's happening, you have to be able to read the pitch. You have to learn something that's similar to what the civil servants do to deconstruct a pitch, but you have to do it on the spot, deconstruct in an impromptu setting, okay? Which is a special skill on its own, okay? You also have to master the art of saying no, right? It's not easy. It's much harder for me to say no to things than it is for me to say, yes, okay, I'll consider it. Thank you for your time, because you want to be nice, Vincentian mission, you want to give everyone a chance, but some stuff you have to say no to, just reasonably. It's off target with your company's mission, it's off target with the goals for your course or office or team, and so you have to learn the art of saying no kindly and appropriately. Now, in daily use, regardless of your industry, pitches are constantly used within organizations to procure new resources, petition for budgets, promotions, team projects, raises, the implementation of a new initiative, etc. Okay? We have the pharma STEM group as well. The pharmacists themselves don't usually have to use pitches. However, pharma marketing reps and pharmaceutical researchers do use this all the time, not only to get grants and contracts going for specific products, but also to get the approvals for certain products at every level, and then to get those products into medical offices. All right. So occasionally pitches are directed to investors. However, mostly it is directed towards business managers, medical practitioners, etc. All right. So that's the conclusion of the formal seminar. However, I'm going to pass the mic over to Stacey, but first a couple of announcements. If you want to learn more how to do a pitch in your own industry in a workshop setting, please type in the chat yes number 1. So I'll give you guys a few moments to do that. If you want to learn more about follow-up protocols once you have given a pitch, just type yes number 2 in the chat. And if you want an extended talk about how to construct a pitch deck, which is a little bit more detailed than just a 10-second, 20-second pitch, you're creating a whole scheme of how to create certain aspects of your pitch and why, how to prepare your panel your packet questions, and why, how to prepare your reports and measurable milestones, and that whole SMART concept that I was talking about earlier. Press yes 3, sorry, type yes 3 in the chat. We have a couple of yes 2s and yes 3s. This is very exciting. Okay, and we'll take questions. I'm going to pass the mic over to Stacey. I'm actually very thankful that all of you joined. I'm told that there are over 100 people registered today, so I know that we can't see everyone at the same time using this WebEx feature. However, I'm very glad that you are all able to attend. Stacey?
Thank you. Okay, so we have a question coming in. Can you speak of pitches used in healthcare, for example, nurses, radiology technologists, and laboratory technologists?
Okay, so yes. So nurses, I'm going to give you an elevator pitch that I gave. It wasn't elevator, obviously, we're in a medical room, right? But I'll give you the pitch that I gave to an older person who I had to give the CAT scan medication to, right? I was volunteering at the hospital. I was a high school kid. I didn't know anything about anything, although I thought I knew everything, right? And there's a very nice lady, Mary, okay? And she needed to take the CAT scan, and she needed to take this awful liquid. And the nurse told me, please go dispense this to this patient. I said, okay, great. So I sat with Mary, and I was her cheerleader for about 20 minutes while she drank this awful thing. And I didn't have to drink it, but you could smell it. It was terrible. But, you know, you give her the little milestones. Come on, you can do it. After this is going to be over. Look, all the team is doing this to help you get better. And even though she obviously didn't want to consume this stuff, the fact that she was getting a positive pitch while she was doing it, and not just like a lump on a log, you know, sitting there telling her, here, drink this, I'll wait and sit for you. I'll sit and wait for you to finish. It helped motivate her to be a little speedier with her consumption of the stuff. So that's like my nursing example, right? I'll tell you, a lot of doctors and health practitioners also have to do, especially those who are taking care of pediatric cases, because you have to have that kind of like carrot on a stick for the patient, okay, who can't make the decisions for themselves. You have to, as I said before, deal with a split audience, because you're trying to convince the patient to do something, but also you're trying to convince the parents that, hey, this is the thing that you have to do. Health professionals who are in the administrative area of their field, they have a very hard time because they're trying to convince people to give them funding. They're trying to like get department chairs and other non-medical specialists. Maybe they have an MPH or a PhD or something, and they're dealing with these people. Meanwhile, they have their RN or they have their MD or whatever PA practical degree that they have to implement the care. But although they are educated in the implementation of the care, they have to keep pitching to the administrators for funding so that their division doesn't shut down, or to explain the relevance of why they're there and why they need more people on their team, etc. The technicians don't really use pitches because they know already what their job is. It's kind of fixed. However, their supervisors are the ones who do have to pitch because they have to keep pitching for funding and space and the justification of those things. All right. Did that answer the, I think that's Rosemary. Did that answer the question? All right. Thanks, Rosemary.
And the last question is, in an interview process, whether virtual or in person, when is it appropriate to give your elevator pitch?
So the moment that you step in, so to speak, the moment that you step in, you are pitching. You don't turn off the pitch until you walk away. So you have to know how you're presenting yourself. So for example, if I walked in today, or rather, if you guys came on today and I was with my hair still in curlers and, you know, disorganized and didn't have my slides together and all of this stuff, I would have already failed the pitch before I even opened my mouth. So before you open your mouth, your body language and confidence show, your preparedness shows, and people see that and they stay on, right? There's over 100 people today, right? Great. Now, would you stay on if I didn't look the part? Would you stay on if there was no screen, or if the sound quality was poor, or if the video was shoddy? Would you do it, right? No, obviously. So it's the moment that you walk in to the moment that you walk out. Make sure that you feel like the star of your own one-person show, right? You're there, you're presenting your thing, and then exit, right? Walk on stage one, stage left, and walk off stage right. Okay, that's how it is. And it could take 10 seconds. It could be a quick thing. It could take 20 seconds. You might see someone tell you, thank you, and you know, I'm not interested, or thank you, yes, yes, we'll be in touch. Don't call us, we'll call you, and fail, right? The more important thing is to follow up either with yourself in terms of accepting when someone's not interested, or to follow up with the other person when they are interested in an effective and meaningful way. So the interview like continues on. I know that that went a little bit off towards the end from the intended question, but the interview is the whole thing, the whole package. You are your own package. And I'll say something that actually I learned from my grandparents. My grandparents used to tell me, when you leave the house, you have to look a certain way because you represent yourself and your family and your people, right? That's a lot of people, right? That's a lot. You're not just walking off and going to school. You're representing a nation, right? We don't think about this stuff when we're younger, but as we grow in our professional elements, it becomes a more and more important concept, you know? Like when I step into a meeting, I represent St. John's University. I'm the product of St. John's University, okay? I represent Columbia University Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. I'm, you know, representing people. This is a reflection of the quality of my education. You know, it's a reflection of the quality of Vincentian mission and what it means, right? So it's more than just you walking in and saying something. It's your whole persona. All right. Did that, I think, Stacey, I answered that question now?
I think so, you did.
Okay.
I see one question that came in. I'm interested in being a program manager for a nonprofit. What should I say in the pitch?
You say it again. You're interested in being
a program manager for a nonprofit organization. What should I say in my pitch?
Okay, so that falls into the category of pitch deck where you have to kind of prepare yourself, and it has to do with the type of organization. So it's not just enough to say nonprofit. You have to be able to know what kind of. So I know that if I'm pitching something to someone at St. John's, right? St. John's, big nonprofit, right? What are the two words that I have to say? Vincentian mission, right? I've said it already several times today. I'm going to keep saying it until my last breath. Vincentian mission, right? So when I'm pitching to someone on campus, I have to make the thing that I'm saying fall in with their mission, right? What does it mean, Vincentian mission? You're going to give the second chance. You're going to give the opportunity. There's going to be something fresh and new for the person in front of you. And when they're down and out, you'll be there, the staff for them to walk with. That's it, right? That's Vincentian mission. Okay, it's the air we breathe once we set foot on campus. You have to be part of the air that you're breathing in the organization once you set foot on that campus, let's say. All right, you have to be part of that thing. So what you need to do is take the mission statement from that nonprofit organization and actually bring it home to you, to like who you are, and make it part of who you are looking to become now. All right. It helps also if you've had already experience with nonprofits, if you have like internships and etc. that you've worked on, you already have a little bit of familiarity of the words and the lingos to say. So there was a slide earlier that I mentioned. You have to know the vocabulary of that industry. So you have to know what the keywords are for the nonprofit industry, but more importantly, you have to be attuned to the mission and to the goals set by the people who created the mission. Okay, you have to be familiar with those things in order to create a good, strong pitch to become part of a nonprofit organization, especially higher up in the administrative levels.
Thank you, Chris.
Mhm.
I think you answered all the questions. Do you have any last thoughts before we close out?
I think that's it. I want to thank you, Stacey, actually very much for organizing this, because it's a great achievement. And I know that many people have been looking for this kind of support for a really long time.
Thank you. Well, with that said, thank you everyone for joining us today, and a very special thank you to Chris for such an informative presentation. For Chris's complete bio, please go to stjohns.edu/APD series. Here you will also find a schedule of upcoming webinars and past recordings. I hope you will join us Thursday, June 24th at 11 a.m., where we will continue our networking series and conduct virtual mock interviews with Chris and a few of her colleagues. In the meantime, have a great rest of your day.